Welcome, everyone. Nice to see folks joining. This is going to be a bit more of an interactive session. So if people want to try to drop things in the question and answer section so I can make sure I see them, that would be great. I have learned from previous sessions this morning, I need to click out and click back in. Hi, is it Titia? I am going to pronounce everyone's names horribly, but hi, thank you for being here. Today's session, by the way, is about how to find your purpose and change the world. If there were folks at my earlier session this morning, we talked about a bunch of topics that you might care about and you might think could be one of your purposes to change the world. So I would love to talk about how you can find your purpose, figure out if one of those world-changing issues is something that you want to work on, and then actually use that purpose to change your life. So while folks are filtering in, I just want to highlight how important this session is to me and to the work that I do. I am the CEO of the DG Sentinel. We are a new nonprofit social media platform that literally, this is what we do. We try to help people find their purpose. We help people connect to other people who want to change the world, and we help them start movements together. A better way to use your free time, a better way to be social, a better way to uplift voices around the world. What is my Twitter and Medium? Great question, Denise. I stopped being on Twitter. And I'm at Isvari, ISVARIM, at Isvari M on Medium, and on LinkedIn as well. I'm like linkedin.com/in/ just my first name, Isvari. So find me on LinkedIn or Medium. I would love to connect. My inbox is a nightmare on LinkedIn, but I will try. So more about finding your purpose. Really glad to see everyone here. I would love people to be interactive in the question and answer section. Usually this is more of a 2-hour session that I'm condensing into 30 minutes. So please take your time to go through all of this in detail later on, or to do the exercises we're doing over a longer span of time. But what I'm going to try to do during our session today is that everyone can leave with your vision statement, or at least the tools you need to figure out how to find your vision statement and find your purpose. So people who have found their purpose are much more mentally healthy. They have so much more fun in life. They are happier. They are more balanced. They have more fun in their jobs. If their jobs align with their purpose, they have a mission. And people with missions tend to bond with other people, have social, financial, and societal benefits, and of course are just physically and mentally healthier. So this is something I'm really, really passionate about. I found my purpose relatively recently, and I learned how to find my purpose relatively recently, a few years ago, and it totally changed my life. And now I love to share these ideas with everyone that I can. So as I'm talking, please feel free to drop ideas and questions in the question and answer spot. And I'm going to throw out questions for the crowd as well. And I'd love to hear what people are thinking of. So, the first thing that I want to do for the first 5-6 minutes is, folks are still trickling in, and just to get your brain sort of thinking about what your purpose might be, I want folks to think about what you are good at. So you may think about finding your purpose as figuring out a career path. But in reality, finding your purpose is something that's going to shape your entire life, what you do in your free time, what you're passionate about, your online brand identity, who your friends think you are, the type of voice that you use in conversations, everything. So spend a few minutes thinking about what you are good at. I generally think this is one of the best ways to start thinking about what your purpose might be, because you may be really, really passionate about something, but you might not be able to be good at it. I'll give you an example from myself. I really care about animal rights. If you came to this morning's session, you heard me talk about it at length. I also really care about criminal justice reform. I also talked about that at length this morning. And while I passionately write about those subjects online, I learned pretty young that I couldn't work in animal rights, let's say, as an example. I also couldn't work in prisoner advocacy. I burned out too quickly. This is because I'm really bad at putting a boundary between my work and my personal life. So I needed to do something, and my purpose needed to be something where I could get positive energy from what I did, because I have an overactive empathy and I really get emotional, and I just was hitting compassion fatigue at a point where I could not be useful to being an activist or to the movement as a whole. So what are you good at? Are you good at being strong in the face of adversity? Are you good at leading? right? Leadership is a very underrated, very difficult skill. I don't think everyone should even necessarily try to be a leader. If you're around this afternoon, definitely come to my session about like 21 lessons in leadership and global leadership, because one of the big things I talk about there is you shouldn't be a leader unless it's something you genuinely enjoy. It's very overrated. Are you good at project management? Are you good at convincing people to go along with what you want? You can see how I'm asking questions that are more about the broad sense. What are you good at? What types of skills are you good at? It's not necessarily a specific career, like I'm good at software programming or I'm good at engineering. It could be, but for many people, it's a little bit vaguer. So here are ways you can discover what you're good at, because I know I asked this question and then a lot of people get stuck here. How do I figure out what I'm good at? I believe that everyone has a superpower. Everyone genuinely has something that they are passionate about, that they can very easily do, that other people look at and go like, what just happened? I could never do that. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend, and when they walk into a room, they immediately figure out who might have an important story or who's an important person. They're really good at networking, basically, but more than that, they will go ask that person a ton of questions, or they do this online. They meet people and they ask a person a ton of questions, and they convert that into a story about them. This has then become their sort of branding model, right? They tell stories about people. And then they realize they really like telling stories about people and that it comes very easily to them and it doesn't tax them. Another way to think about what you're very good at is think about things you do that are productive, that move your career forward or move your life forward or your friends commend you for, that doesn't feel like work to you. So think about things where you're like, that was really easy for me. I just did a major project, but I did it really, really quickly. So, oh, by the way, I just saw a ton of questions come in and I'm so sorry. I have to like flip back and forth. For some reason, it's not auto loading. So Anonymous asked a really good question. Why is it that some people are better at knowing what they're good at and while others get stuck? I actually think it's people who are good at a lot of things, who can't figure out what like one thing they're really, really good at is. That's why I always ask people to think about their superpower. Don't just think about what you're good at. Think about your superpower. What is something that comes so easily to you? If you still can't figure it out, ask your friends, ask the 5 people closest to you what it is they really admire you for. Think about the careers you've had in your life. Are there skill sets that all of them require? Before I was an attorney, I was in physics. After I was an attorney, I was a columnist and I run a nonprofit. A lot of the common threads are very intellectual, very like mind-heavy jobs all day. Hakima asked a great question. Do you find your own purpose, or is purpose something predetermined and spiritually related? I am definitely not going to malign anyone's thoughts or beliefs about predetermination or spirituality. I think that's a whole other conversation about metaphysics and physics. But I do think most people find their own purpose. And look at it this way. Even if you believe it's predetermined, you still have to figure out what it is. Even if you're born with it, even if it's an innate skill set, you may not know what it is. And you need to find what it is so that you can hone it and become better at it over time. All right. So once you figure out what you are good at, you need to figure out what it is that the world needs. So thinking about the crux about what you're good at and what the world needs. By the way, another really quick trick that I've used to figure out what I'm good at is just trying a bunch of new things and seeing which skills come quickly, right? So let's say you can't narrow it down, right? Going to the question about how some people may find it harder than others, right? Let's say you narrow it down to about 10 different types of skill sets and you're like, I don't know which exactly is the thing that I'm best at, right? And Hakim asked a great question, is purpose related to doing something only, right? No, purpose can just be who you are and how you interact in the world. It doesn't necessarily need to be action focused. So you may have 10 or 20 different things that you associate with yourself and with your personality. And you're like, I can't figure out what it is I'm best at. Okay, start figuring out what the world needs that you can actually provide the world based on what you're good at. This is where I highly recommend going to sessions like the one I did this morning about world-changing issues, reading a bunch of stuff on Medium and other places. Figure out what it is that makes you tick, where you're like, I'm really passionate about this, and I don't know why, but it makes me really emotional, and I wish I could fix it. So one thing I realized, and by the way, for those of you who stayed this whole thing, I'm going to tell you what my vision statement is at the end of this, and you tell me if it makes sense given everything you'll learn about me during this talk. So one thing I saw about myself growing up was I was passionate about a whole bunch of different things, right? I was like, I really, really care about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and I'm confident I could solve it if everyone would just listen to me. And I'm confident I would make a great president. I was very, very, an egocentric or delusional, one or the other as a kid. And I was like, I would love to do this. I want to be queen of the world because I could fix all these problems. And I can't believe people are so dumb, right? I think kids tend to think like this, right? Because we see injustice in the world and we're like, why can we just stop killing people? So think about what the world needs. What does the world need you to be? If you think you're a good leader or you have these 10 skill sets, you're like, oh my God, okay, I'm a good leader. I'm very compassionate. I'm good at talking to people about mental health. I'm a really strong swimmer. And then you think to yourself, what does the world need, right? Being a strong swimmer, I don't know, maybe necessarily, I don't know how to use that to impact the world. I can see where being a good leader can make an impact. And I can see how my perseverance and my ability to get myself at 6 a.m. in the morning and my ability to harness my physical strength, how that makes me a strong swimmer. These are strengths I have that are related to something that the world needs. So think about what it is that is happening in the world where you're like, I am passionate about this and I know I can move the needle. One of the best ways I have found to discover what the world needs, aligned with what you're good at, is to volunteer in your free time in leadership positions. See if there are nonprofits looking for people to lead teams to do something. This is not because everyone is a good leader. It is because leadership is one of those places that really highlights your skills and deficiencies. So you will learn really quickly what you are good at and what you are passionate enough about to do for free in your free time in a really potentially painful, prickly role. I think, okay, medium support dropped a great comment, and thank you very much. For some reason, I still have to flip back and forth, so excuse me when I have to check the questions. All right, so now let's say you create a list, right? You're like, okay, I found a few things I'm good at. I'm not quite sure what my superpower is. I'm not doing a session on this today, by the way, but I do it frequently as an audio event on LinkedIn here and there about how to find your superpower. And I recommend either coming to one of mine or finding out a little bit more about how to discover your superpower, because I think it's even more than what you're good at, right? You might have a whole set of things you're good at, but there might be something you are really good at. And then you think to yourself, what does the world need? You analyze what the world needs. You think about how I can connect the things that I'm good at to the things the world needs. So when you're doing exercises, right, you're doing brainstorming, now you might have an entire sheet. And I hope that many of you are starting this as this talk goes on today, but please take the time to do this. This entire process I've done with many people takes 2 hours, so sit and do it. It's like 30 minutes on what you're good at, 30 minutes on what the world needs, 30 minutes figuring out what you love doing, although I have a longer exercise I recommend I'm going to share in a few minutes here. And then some time brainstorming how you're going to actually act on it and how you're going to get paid to do it, or how you're going to find the time to do it if you can't get paid to do it. So let's say you have these 2 long brainstorming sheets. You have a bunch of skills that you're good at. And there's so many ways to beef that up, right? If you have nothing, do personality tests, ask your friends and family, get a whole sheet. Now you have a whole sheet of what the world needs. Now what you're going to do is you're going to sit and start matching them. This is where I spend a lot of time thinking about, like, okay, how do you match these things? Try to help people figure it out. So what are the things, what are the issues out there that your skills are sorely needed in? So what you do is when you read articles about the world issue, they will frequently tell you why it's still an issue. People are not acting. People are not aware of it. People are aware of it, but they're not donating money to it. There aren't enough scientific advancements or solutions, right? Like cure for cancer. Everyone is aware of it. Everyone wants it, but somebody hasn't come up with it yet, right? Like, what is the gap? And then you look at your skill sets and you think, these are gaps I can fill. And you often won't figure out exactly what you're willing to do in the long term until you go out there and try it, which is why I highly recommend finding targeted volunteering in your free time, right? Think about what sort of community you want to build. If you're still stuck, so at this point with many people, I feel like people end up whittling it down to still 3 or 4 things. At this point, what you want to do is find people who are in those fields and get to know them, really get to know them. This is where volunteering with them comes into play, thinking about who they are and what their community is. Chances are, and I have rarely to never seen this fail, when you boil it down to 3 or 4 things and you get to know the people in those fields, you're going to find out some of them are great and some of them suck. Some of the most important and powerful world-changing problems today are unfortunately run, like the solutions for them are run by a bunch of people that I simply cannot tolerate. I am not going to name any names or name any fields, but you know what I'm talking about. There are fields where everyone is an activist, everyone says they care, and you join and you volunteer and you're like, oh my God, everyone here is crazy. And what that actually means is the community in that space and the people in that space are not a good fit for you and the work that you want to do, right? So it may be your purpose to work in, let's call a fictional country, right? Acadian politics. You're like, Acadian democracy is failing. I think it is my purpose to fix Acadian democracy. And then you realize that everybody involved in Acadian democracy is kind of jerky. And that's not your purpose because you can't tolerate that. All right, so let's say you boil it down to a few things, right? You thought to yourself, I am good at these things. These are places where I can impact the world. Now what you want to do is take either 30 minutes or a week, and I'm going to tell you what to do with both, or 2 weeks or a month, discovering what you love. If you take nothing else away from this talk, please take this away. Everybody needs to take time off. And here's what I mean by time off. Time off. A week, 2 weeks, a month, where you do not have anything to do. You do not have a job to think about. You don't have work. You don't have kids. I'm aware this is a privilege. I'm aware most people cannot do this. That is why I have alternatives if you cannot do this. But if you can, there is so much benefit, no matter how old or young you are, to just taking time off, having nothing on your calendar long enough that you can recover from what it is you do day to day. And then you just sit around and watch what it is you do in your free time. Now, the way you emulate this in a shorter period of time, let's say a weekend or a week or even in a 30-minute brainstorming session, is you think about what you would do if you had that kind of time. When the pandemic hit, I took time off accidentally. I had left my job. I was an attorney for the government, and I left my job for a few months to travel the world. The pandemic hit in March of 2020, and I couldn't travel. I quit in February. It was really poor timing. I had nothing to do. Within a couple months, I had accidentally co-founded a nonprofit and a movement to help mentor people and to help connect people to aid around the world. Had no intention of doing it, did not plan to do it, was sitting in my parents' attic, was bored out of my mind. I found something to do with my time. That ended up being really closely aligned to my purpose. Not exactly, but really closely aligned, because when you sit around and have nothing else to do, what do you choose to do? What do you want to do? And it is totally fine if what you want to do is read books all day or play video games all day. That means you're still in recovery mode and you still need time before your creative energy is going to flow. That is why I recommend just clean taking time off. But if you're not able to, think through that, emulate that process in your head. What is it that you would do if you had a lot of time? What did you care about as a kid? What did you start doing when you had a lot of time to yourself? Did you start writing on Medium? Did you start writing a novel? Did you want to get published? Did you care about getting your voice heard? Did you care about changing the world in certain ways? Did you organize your fellow kids into a D&D campaign? What is it that you did in your free time? That is the best way to figure out what it is you actually love, not what you're forced to do, not what you can tolerate. The second exercise to do in this 30 minutes, in this 2 weeks, whatever time you can spare to figure out what it is you love, is figure out what you hate. Think to yourself, what is it I cannot tolerate? When I was a kid, I really wanted to be in music. I had a song on the radio when I was 8. I always composed on the piano. I took piano. I still play the piano for like 22 years now. I sang. I love music. I love composing music. I love it. Why couldn't I have been a singer or been a music career? And why did I become an attorney, right? I became an attorney, which, okay, I'm Asian. That's why I became an attorney and didn't go to music, right? Like, but why? No, why did I, right? Like, and why do I not regret it? And the answer to that is I realized that I actually hate the things that go into being a successful singer. I could not put up with the need to travel from city to city and perform every night. I didn't want to pursue being an influencer or a celebrity. I didn't want to have to invest time in PR. When I was a kid, I was really ugly and I didn't want to invest in how I looked. And, you know, music was such a looks-based career. Law school sucked, but I could do it. I was willing to do the things, the bad parts, the I hate things parts of being an attorney. End of the day, while other people would find going to law school and research and all this stuff mind-numbing, I did hate it, but I didn't hate it so much it stopped me from doing it. So figure out what you hate. It's almost more powerful than figuring out what you love. There are things that you just will not want to do no matter how good the career is. Take it off the potential list of careers to pursue or passions to pursue because you just don't want to do it. So spend all this time thinking about it. For those of you who are joining right now, I want to do a quick recap. We're talking about how to find your purpose. You want to spend some time figuring out what you're good at, create a huge list, right? There are a few techniques and tricks I talked about on how to do that. Discover what the world needs, right? Spend some time on that. Figure out how to match those two together, match what you're good at with what the world needs. Spend the most amount of time figuring out what it is that you love, and what it is that you hate and will not tolerate, so that you can find what is at the crux of those two things. And now, after you do all of that, figure out how to turn that into a life. That can mean how to get paid for it. It can also mean how to do it on the side. So if you are unable to get paid for something that you're very passionate about, what you want to do is you want to find a career that gives you enough money so that you can do what you're passionate about on the side, right? You want to find a way to weave your purpose into your life. Once you discover what your purpose is and what you want to pursue, and it can be your purpose for a few years, for a decade, it doesn't have to be your whole life, right? But you found something you love, you're passionate about, you're good at, and the world needs. You need to figure out how to make it happen. Do not say you're going to wait. Do not say you're going to save up money first and you want to retire early. Find a way to make it happen. There's always a way to figure out how to weave it into the time that you have and the abilities that you have. If you settle for a career in which you are not purpose-oriented, and which you have found no purpose in either your free time or your job, you will end up living a less happy life and a less mentally healthy life. So please, when you figure this out, make it a part of your life. Here's how you can get paid for it. If it's activism oriented, right, it can be a little bit harder, right? Finding a nonprofit or a social justice institution, right, to work for, right? This is more career advice than anything else. If you're in computer science, you're like, okay, maybe I could code something and I can also get paid for the side. More broadly, one of the ways you can get paid for it in today's world is to make it a part of your brand. Every step of the way in your career, on LinkedIn, on TikTok, if you have it, wherever you are, talk about your purpose. Make sure that your videos and your content are aligned with your purpose. When you write on Medium, as often as possible, write about the things that you're passionate about. Use it as a tool to discover your purpose and then talk about your purpose. Even if you don't think it's related to your current career, your future bosses will notice, recruiters will notice, your career will start going in a general direction in the way in which you present yourself to your friends, to your family online, right? Because people are going to start looking at you for jobs where they recognize that your purpose and your passion align with what you're looking for. So that's a great way to try and slowly lean your career, even if you don't have financial or career flexibility. The other big thing you can do, of course, is to do it on the side. Carve out time for yourself so that you can pursue your passion on the side. I advise a lot of young students about what to do in life, and a lot of Gen Zers are very passionate about creative careers. They want to know how they can realistically become an actor or a singer without sacrificing their ability to take care of themselves and their family in, a market with increasing inflation and a world that's on fire. And I tell them, get a computer science degree. Now, whether or not it's too early or late for you to get a computer science degree, the point is you find a career where you can earn as much money as possible in as little time as possible. And then you find the time to pursue these things on the side and you treat it like a career. So I know many of you are writers and authors on Medium, so you know this, right? You know, if you want to write on the side, you have to treat it like a career. You set aside time to write, you're serious about it. That's what it means to be an author, even if you're not published yet, right? So I highly recommend that you set aside time to do it, and that as you brand build and share your brand and identity with your friends and online with your coworkers, your career will start going along more closely with your purpose and with what you want to do in life. And hopefully you eventually find a way to completely mesh the two so that you're spending most of your life doing things that align with your purpose and your mission. The last thing I really quickly want to touch on is how to make your vision statement. And then I'm going to try and start answering questions or reading comments that have popped up as well and share mine. So your vision statement should be an action, an active statement. I am going to do this. I will do this. I will change the world in this way. I will create this. I will fix this. I will be this sort of person. I will inspire people. It should be as specific as possible. You should be able to look at your vision statement on a wall and think, these are the 5 things that I'm going to do this week that align with my vision and my purpose. In some ways, treat yourself like you would with a company or a nonprofit that has a mission statement or a vision statement. You're important. Your time is important. 100% of the things you do aren't going to be aligned with your purpose. Nonprofits have admin costs. You're going to have to eat. You want to make friends. You have hobbies. But you also want to make sure that at least some of the things you're doing every week, every month are aligned. So create a vision statement, make sure it's active, and then keep tweaking it over the course of the next 6 months or year. So I'll give you my example. Here's mine. You tell me if it makes sense given everything that you now know about me, and it probably will be pretty obvious. So my vision statement is, I am going to help my generation learn to save the planet without destroying their own mental health. That's why I do talks like this. That's why I started the Sentinel. I really care about magnifying and amplifying impact. I realized I was good at it. I realized that I could lead people to do it. I realized that there aren't a lot of solutions out there for people to start movements of their own. And one of the things, going back to that story about figure out what you did as a kid, right? I always had my hands in 700 things. I could not let anything go. I want to fix criminal justice reform and animal rights and climate change, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict still bothers me. I cannot believe we're still killing people globally in all these different ways. I can't believe Russia's a war in Ukraine. Like, I can't believe all these things. I want to fix everything, and I can't do that alone. So I realized one of the things I could do was magnify and amplify the ability for other people to solve problems. And I realized we didn't really have the resources, ability, or social media platform to be able to do that, to get to know other people, to create solutions globally, and to save the world. We weren't doing it, and I want to help do it, and I need more people, so I'm going to help make a superhero team. The other thing I realized as a kid is that I hated being alone. I always used to watch Avengers movies and be like, I really want that. And with Dweebs Global, the first nonprofit I started, and now with the Sentinel, I have my superhero team. I have a wonderful team I work with every day, and I'm so happy I do this in my free time. I was on a red eye last night to DC. I am exhausted, and I'm doing this because I love what I do, and I'm not bitter about it, and I'm happy to do it, and it doesn't burn me out, right? So I've found my purpose, and I really, really hope all of you find yours. So I'm going to go ahead and share some of the questions and comments, seeing if I can answer any of them. Please keep them coming. I'm going to stay for the rest of the time here. Thank you all so much for coming. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to me, LinkedIn's the best way. You can sign up for a handle, reserve your handle at dgsentinel.org if you want to check out our site, which will launch soon. And yeah, I hope to hear from all of you. So Carmen has a great comment. I've been wanting to discover myself my whole life. I find that I get stuck every single time. I would love to start a nonprofit. Start a nonprofit, by the way. I wish I could do a whole session on this, and maybe I will someday. Starting a nonprofit is just so much better than starting a company. I have like 100 things to say about it, but start a nonprofit, start a B Corp, start something with the goal of making an impact on the world. Figure it out as you go. Your first nonprofit does not need to be successful any more than your first company needs to be, right? You'll figure it out. Start a nonprofit, Carmen. I'm sure you'll be great. Hakima has a great point. Sometimes people's purpose is related to the pain they have had rather than what they are good at. For example, they've experienced trauma and now they're supporting other people with trauma. I recognize they find passion in helping others, but their purpose naturally rises from pain. What's your take on that? Great point. I have worked with several people whose passion and purpose has unfortunately come from very serious trauma, childhood abuse, sexual assault. One of the healthiest things I've learned from therapy and from therapists is that reframing that pain as a skill that you now have can be a way to get through that pain. So thinking about, okay, this bad thing happened to me and it makes me able to talk to other people who've gone through it, really understand what they're going through. It has now become a part of my superpower. It has enhanced my superpower. It has made me able to help other people in this way. So that's how I tend to look at it for the traumas I've been through that have impacted the decisions I've made. I know that won't work for everyone, and I'm not a therapist, but that's how I look at it. And I think it's totally true. A lot of people pursue careers to fix the problems from their childhood or young adulthood that nobody fixed for them. How would we follow, Chihab asks, how would we follow our passion, organize our time if we feel that we are busy with the full-time job? This is a really good question. I have so much to say about this, but because I only have a few moments, Google spoon theory, which is a technique people with chronic illnesses use to manage their time, and then figure out how to energy track. Don't time track, energy track. Figure out tasks that use a lot of your energy and schedule them so that you have breaks. Don't worry about time tracking. Everybody has more time than they think they do. The reason that they can't do as much as they want to with that time is because they're burning out, right? Like if you do a very, like for example, doing my dog's nails takes so much energy because he hates it. Even though it's a 10-minute task, it's never 10 minutes in my mind. I always procrastinate it, right? So energy track, don't time track. That'll help you find more time. Claire, thank you so much. It's been incredible. Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. That's such a sweet comment. Thank you so much. Dagmar, what is DG Sentinel's business model? We are a nonprofit. How do we get financing, donations? Thank you so much. So such sweet comments. I know I'm at the hour. This was so wonderful. Thank you all for coming. If I can help in any way, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm at Medium at /Isvari M, and on LinkedIn at /Isvari. And I am very much looking forward to continuing to talk to all of you and getting to know more. Huge thank you. Shout out to all of you for being here. I hope you all find your purpose. Go live your beautiful lives. And if you have time, I have three more sessions left today. And I did one this morning if you want to hear that recording. Take care.